Here tonight. It's fantastic to be able to talk to you because tonight we are here 6:30 p.m. Wednesday night in the UK. We have filmmaker Dean Leslie with us tonight. Hi Dean, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. You're really well known amongst runners for your stunning videos for Salomon TV, and you follow athletes like around the world, and you currently run a company called Wandering Fever. I just wondered, just to kind of set the scene and start everybody off, how did you get into that in the first place?
The shortest answer is I had a childhood friend, Ryan Sands. We knew each other since we were 6 years old. And when he started running, I just started film, and we started doing a project together, and that developed over the years into a film we wanted to do together. And then someone saw some early things that we were doing, and at that time, I think it was 2009 or 2010, and it was just in like the kind of boom with trail running. And Salomon contacted me to look at creating a series of films around trail running. So that's effectively how it started. It morphed over the years, but it was through Ryan.
Ah, okay, because you're both based in South Africa as well, aren't you? Do you live close to each other then? You were at school?
Yeah, he's just a couple of valleys down from me, and we were at school together for our whole lives. So.
Ah, sweet, that's so cool. And so, are you a runner as well as him?
I wouldn't classify myself as a runner. I do run now. It's a nice, efficient way to move in the mountains. But I didn't run before I started filming.
Yeah. Did Ryan run before you started filming him? Was that was the main reason that he wanted you to film him?
When the first time that I knew he was running, he actually phoned me saying he was doing a 250k race through the Gobi Desert. So I didn't even know he was running at that stage, and I didn't know that anything like that existed. So that kind of captured my imagination in terms of big wilderness, open spaces where people are running through, and that's what ultimately got me interested in pursuing something, and falling in love with shooting running in wild spaces. I really cinematically, it's appealing.
Yeah, well, they're certainly, the films that you make for Salomon are certainly very visually appealing just now, and we have quite a lot of fans of yours on the channel, so I just want to read out a few comments. Guy Greater-X has he's already written a comment. He's one of my patrons here, and he says, in lockdown lots of people were recommending running films to watch, and lots or nearly all of them were from Salomon TV, so thank you for that, Dean.
Great. I'm glad.
And we've got tons of people watching tonight live as well, so I'll just do a little shout out to everybody because everybody wants to say hi to you. So Adrian says hi. Guy, who wrote that comment previously, he has got loads of questions for you tonight, so he says hi, really looking forward to this.
Hi,
Guy. Rich Simpson says good evening, Dean. John Gardner says hello. Nigel Barnett says hi. Chris Williams, Philip Haddock, Christian Anderson, and Hannah Baisley are all watching live tonight, not to mention millions of others who haven't yet written a comment. So if you've got any questions for Dean live, then get typing. We have got some great patron questions to come tonight, but yeah, if you've got any specific questions, Dean is all ours for the next at least half an hour, so it's absolutely fantastic that you can join us. So I've just got a question first of all, that I'm really keen to know how camera kit has changed over those 10 years that you've been basically shooting, because I know, having just started doing YouTube over the last 3 years, things have really moved on even in that short space of time. So what were you using at the start when you started shooting, Ryan, and what do you use now?
Yeah, it's obviously changed with the size and quality. It's not really comparable. So initially we were shooting on a Sony EX1, so it's a fairly large camcorder, and then that was quite small for that time. And then I think once the 5Ds came out, so we were shooting with a bigger camera and then the smaller camcorders, the Canons. And then with mirrorless, as all the bodies get smaller, it's not just the body, it's the fact that you can have a smaller body, all the peripherals, everything around that you would, your stabilizing kits or your tripod or everything can shrink in size. So it makes a drastic difference. Just a few 100 grams can change your kit weight by a massive amount. And the fact that you can now have a backpack with a cinema camera, a stabilizer, a drone, and probably a backup camera in a single backpack and carry that on your back, that was not possible when I started. It's quite amazing. And that's not even getting into what GoPro have done and all the smaller action cams.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of your athletes, they also carry a camera, and you put their footage, like from their iPhone, presumably, and from the GoPro, like when Ricky was doing his run, Transamericana. So I noticed he was using his footage, and then you were cutting to your footage. It was really interesting the way that you managed to like combine that, and his footage, like, not to downplay yours or anything, but like the quality of his footage is really good, isn't it? Like, it comes quite seamlessly between the two. It isn't just like, oh, this is really blurry and then this is really amazing. It's quite a seamless transition that you've managed to make there. Do you do that with a lot of athletes? How do you decide like who shoots what bit, and like how do you storyboard it all? Guy's got a question about that. He's like saying, do you ask Ricky to film certain things on his run, or do you just let the adventure just take its course? How does it all work?
Yeah, so I started experimenting with the kind of athlete self-shot film pieces in about 2016. I've done about half a dozen projects with various different athletes. Kaylin Thorin across the Sierra. I did with Joe Grant. He did the Tour de Fortinas, where he summited each of the Colorado Fortinas, and in between cycling to each of them. So yeah, it doesn't. I don't just send them out and just say get what you can. We set up a kit. So I have like little camcorders that we use. Just like little point and shoots. They're little Sony. I can't even remember the model of what it is, but it's a tiny point and shoot like you would take on holiday. And then and a GoPro as well usually. And in terms of giving them structure with what to shoot, if I'm going to have someone there or if I'm going to be there, we kind of know what we will get. So getting that raw stuff is really invaluable. To remove the camera away gives it quite a voyeuristic element. Suddenly you can watch a 10-minute long clip because you're just there with that person and there's no third party interfering. So it really changes the feel of things. So the biggest challenge for Ricky's trip, for example, would have been filming when all you want to do is curl in a ball in the corner of the room and cry yourself to sleep, and that's really when you want to get footage. So we talk about that a lot, just saying like when it's getting really bad, that's when you want to pull the camera out. And then you're just getting stuff that you can never capture. You'll never be able to capture that with another person being there.
Yeah, for sure, because somebody changes as soon as you shove a camera in their face, don't they? It always happens. And I was really intrigued. Like, I know you said the hardest thing was the emotional side of it and pulling the camera out when you don't really want to, but I also was thinking it might be quite challenging in terms of the battery life of these things, because like my GoPro only lasts for like 2 hours or so how do you kind of keep meeting them on the way and recharging or swapping stuff?
Yeah, it's obviously project dependent. It just depends what the person's doing. So when Kaylin was out in the Sierra, I would hike out with a pack and meet up with her for 4 or 5 days, and I would then take cards, take batteries back. I would shoot while I was out there, and then I'd back up all her stuff, give her fresh batteries. When Joe went out, he was totally self-sufficient. So he would just, when he could cross through a town, he would recharge. and same with Ricky. So we just sent him with a lot of memory cards, and a lot of batteries. And he was moving through towns, and he's stopping at gas stations, and there wasn't really long stretches where he wasn't touching civilization. And then you obviously have power banks that you can carry and stuff as well. And then when we had someone go out, Ricky would just give a load of memory cards and just kind of dump it with us. And that was probably the biggest job out of that project, was the amount of data we had from Ricky, because you're running 30 miles a day, you're going to use your camera to bide the time sometimes, forget you're rolling. You'd have like a full roll on a GoPro filling a card of just rolls just going because you forgot it was recording. And we had to just sit for months going through that stuff to find moments.
Yeah, wow, because somebody has to watch that all at the end, doesn't it? Like, and it's not like Ricky will watch that and then go, oh, there's a bit. You've got to do that. Yeah. Ah, okay. So I've just got a question about. I want to come back to that in a moment, but Guy's got another question about the whole like athletes filming themselves and you filming the athletes, because he's been watching the Great Himalaya Trail FKT attempt with Ryan and Rhino, and he said they got into some quite life-threatening situations, and he wants to know, as a filmmaker, like, how did you react to that, and like, did you personally get into any danger as well? So can you just say what the danger was, just so that to kind of outline it for anyone who's not seen that film?
There was, most of the stuff's not even in the film. There was just so much stuff that happened on that trip. It was emotionally quite a rough trip, because obviously Ryan and Rayno, it was just me, Ryan, Rayno, and Jared who was filming with me. So there was a small little team of 4 people. I'm trying to think of what didn't happen. We had, it's just a lot of situations where that it's 50-50. So it's not like dramatic. It's just so simple. So like it would just happen so simply and so stupidly that you would die, where you like see a patch of ice and it's only access through, and no one's got crampons. There's one ice axe between 7 of us, because we had porters with us. One of the porters slipped on that patch of ice, and he's just gliding in slow motion towards the edge with like a 3,000-foot drop, and then just catches himself and then comes back. And so that kind of stuff rattles you a lot, especially when you're out there making a film that ultimately goes on the internet, and maybe 100,000 people watch it, but it's not going to change the world. And you definitely don't want to die doing that stuff. So there was a lot of we to film the start of that, we did a 150k round trip just to film 2 minutes. So we did on foot. We went out. It was 75k's out, 75k's back. Me and Jared, and then it took us 8 days to catch up with them, to see them again. Coming back, some goats kicked off rocks on the cliff above us. We nearly got hit by rocks. So it's just really dumb stuff, but you just, because you're pushing and you're going at pace and you've got a lot going on and you're carrying a 30-40 kg pack, and there's just so much going on that really simple situations can get out of control quite quickly. So when I came back from that trip, I actually kind of like locked myself in the house, and I didn't, for like 2 months, I didn't do anything. I didn't surf, I didn't go in the mountain. I just had too much experience in a congested period.
You just had to process it all. Yeah, that does sound like a scary trip in particular. And imagine if you were filming something and somebody started sliding off. Like, do you stop filming and help them, or like, do you carry on filming? Because that would make a great film. It's like
yeah, I think when I was younger, maybe I would have tried to carry on rolling, but now I've got very clear lines of where what's okay and what's not.
Yeah.
Same with that same trip. Rayno started having like a breathing difficulty. He was starting to shake. We were in a super remote area I was only in comms via WhatsApp with Ryan every time he would run into signal. And we were trying to call it off, and he didn't want anything to do with that. So you're grappling with lots of different scenarios all the time. So the film was so far distant in the background of like what we were there for. It ultimately became like, okay, let's just make sure that all four of us get through this, and then we just want to make sure everyone gets home safe, and we've all got families and.
Yes, just became about survival, and then we'll think about the film later. Yeah, it's good to know where the priorities lie, that's for sure. And so it does sound like a pretty stressful job. What would you say is the biggest challenge? Like, is it something like that where you're literally kind of fighting for survival rather than making a film? Or is it more of the mundane stuff like, oh, we've got tons of footage from this athlete, they've been going for ages, or the batteries have run out? Like, what is the biggest challenge, would you say, in what you do?
Well, what I love about film is the array of challenges you face, from like conceptual, like thinking in the beginning, to technical setups of gear, to problem solving in the edit, to the physical demands of being on shoot. I love all those elements. For me, mentally, the biggest challenge is the prep, like leading up to get on shoot. Shoots, being in a location is really like only 10% of the job. It's why you do it, because you have these amazing experiences and do things that you'd never do without it. So that prep I find extremely stressful, getting everything to the place we're shooting, making sure all the gear's in one piece, having enough backups in case something goes wrong. And in terms of challenge, like I would say editing is the biggest challenge, because it's such a huge part of what film is. It's where you're taking all these ideas and material and formulating a narrative story. So that is definitely where the challenge is, and it is challenging to sit in an edit suite for months and months to try complete a project. There's not a lot of fun involved there, but yeah, I enjoy it. It's like a massive game of Tetris.
Yeah, it really is. And I was really struck, like, coming from a writing background where it's, like magazines, it's writing, it's photography. You can kind of make stuff up. So if you've not got something, you can go and you can reshoot something quickly, and you can write it in, like if you just, you're just like, oh, no, that doesn't work like that. We have to just say this, and you can kind of craft it a bit more. Whereas I've realized with film, if you haven't got that footage, you can't show it unless you're going to do some kind of animation, or like some photographs with a bit of a storyline voiceover over the top. Like, there's ways you can sort of get around it, but it really is a really truthful medium, isn't it? So you can't just make anything up.
Yeah, I would counter that a little bit. I totally agree with you, because it is stressful to get all that footage, but documentary film is very manipulative in terms of what you can do with stuff, because you're layering lots of different things on each other. So you've got a narrative layer, and you can have interviews or narration, and then you can put picture on top of something that someone's saying that's unrelated and give it meaning. So there's definitely like an ethics set involved, like to have like a strong moral set of values and a line that you won't cross as a filmmaker, because you want to earn trust in the people you're filming, and you don't want to put words in people's mouths or present them in a way that isn't truthful, even if it makes the story better. So there's a constant balancing act in film.
Yeah, I like the way you describe it as Tetris. That's really, really, really interesting way of describing it. And you've made loads of films. Like you've been all over the world. Like, I was just having a look at your website just before we came live, and you've been to like China, Japan, Nepal, Spain, the USA, South Africa, Norway, the Arctic, Patagonia, Papua New Guinea even. I'm just wondering, like, do you have like a favorite film? Guy Greatorex wants to know this as well. Like, have you got something you're most proud of? And I'm just wondering if you have a favorite country to film in as well.
Favorite film, it's really difficult, because the films are so linked to experience. But yeah, maybe in terms of, it was at just stages in my career. I did a film with Ryan called The Beauty of the Irrational. It was something that was in my head. We didn't really get paid to do it, and we got to go up to Namibia, and he ran through the Fisher River Canyon. It's the second largest canyon in the world, and did an FKT. And at that stage, there wasn't a lot of running media like that, and I didn't know if it would work. And it did work, and it got picked up, and it got a lot of views, and it gave me a lot of opportunity and scope to produce films that I wanted to do after that. And then another film that I liked in terms of what we were able to do was a film, didn't get a wide release. It was called On the Road with Ricky. It was also with Ricky. But there's I think there's somewhere on YouTube, it's called On the Road, a Salomon TV special. So it's an 18-minute little mini doc of Ricky, kind of like a bio on him. But what we were able to do is I was able to take the influence that I've had from surf films and actually make little kind of running sequences. Like if you watch a surf film, you'd have like a surf sequence with music, and it would just be surfing. I didn't know that if you could ever do that with running and keep someone watching. And so we did, a sequence in the desert, in the forest, in the canyons, and in the mountains. And I really liked that structure. I was quite proud of how we put that structure together within a narrative, and there was still a story. But those are early days. It gets harder to be proud of your work as you go on.
Oh, does it? Why is that?
Because you never finish, so you're always abandoning it. You could carry on crafting something endlessly, and sometimes you start going backwards at some point. I'm proud of every piece I've done because I know what effort went into them. Sometimes they're not as good as I wanted them to be, but I'm still proud of them because it's hundreds and hundreds of hours of craft in them.
Yeah, I don't know if people realise what goes into, especially the editing side of things, like that you could jump about with a camera all day and have a great time, provided you've got enough battery life and SD cards. But then when you get it all back to the editing suite and you have to sit there, and I use Final Cut Pro, and it just takes forever to do 3 minutes. It's just
completely.
It's such a thankless task, isn't it? I would say that the ratio of editing to filming is could be even as much as 1 to 5, to be honest, for some things. What would you think? Do you think similarly?
Well, yeah, I think, are you talking about how much footage you have to what you actually use?
Kind of time, you could do 1 day of filming, but it can take you 5 days to edit it sometimes.
Transamericana, we spent probably over a year in the edit suite.
Really? Wow. Well, it's
sometimes it's just really difficult to, some days I will sit on a job that's meant to take me 8 days, and I'll just have 1 day of magic, and I'll get a lot done, and it's just one of those days where everything clicks. And we have other projects where every day you just sit down and you put in 10 hours and you maybe get 10 seconds of cutting out of it, So you'll just sit there for months and months. I think the Great Himalaya Trail, I was in the edit for over 3 months, I think.
Wow. And is that because you have to watch so much footage back, or is it the difficulty of choosing what to take and what to discard?
Yeah, I think it's getting the length right, working out which moments are key, and making sure that the story's flowing in a way that you're never getting bored and you're intrigued the whole time. Because there's not a lot of structural rules in things that are below 40 minutes. Ricky's one was a lot easier because it's very specific structural rule that you need to meet, but then it was the mountain of footage actually to find which moment fits in that arc for his character in the exact moment. So you're dropping a lot of stuff that just doesn't fit in that specific structure. You're talking at this minute, something needs to start happening here, and at this, so it's in a very specific 3-act structure. But below 40 minutes, you just there's no rules, so you're just going off feeling.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly difficult.
And do you ever make a long edit, like for the true fans that really could just sit there and watch something like for hours and hours, like have it on in the background? Do you ever just put out like a long edit of stuff?
It's something we always speak about. I've never have. I usually go to whoever I'm working with, if it's Salomon or Red Bull, another client. If I'm contracted for a certain, you get contracted for a duration for the piece you're going to release. I would release, even if it's a 10-minute piece you've been contracted for, and you put it together and you're like, okay, this is a 30-minute film. This is the best format for that film. I'll just go back to them and say, listen, I'm going to cut a 30-minute. And that's just what I'm doing. That's the best way to do this. It's, I'll take the hit on that time because that's the best way to tell that story. So usually that film that I get that is released is the best time that I can do. I'm sure maybe someone else could come in and do a different time on it. And then it's really hard to go back into a project once you finish the film. I just struggle to open the workspace again. So I've got everything. I've got hundreds of hard drives with all my backups. I've never gone back into anything yet.
Yeah. But you don't have time. It's like it goes on to the next thing, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting. Like, do you ever do a blooper reel as well? Like, sometimes I know you include the funny bits sometimes in the actual film, but would you ever do like a blooper reel of like all your films just to put out for Christmas or something?
Yeah, I would love to. But it is just a case of time. I think this year is the first year that I've been. Sorry, this is my dog Digby. He's just come to say hi.
Oh, hello. Hey, Digby. Digby's your life coach, isn't he?
Yeah, he is my life coach.
He's on your website as your life coach. Yeah. What insights does he bring to your filmmaking?
To be present when you're at home. Enjoy the people around you.
What kind of dog is he?
He's a street special.
Okay, well, like a mongrel.
Yeah, exactly. A good-looking mongrel.
Oh, yeah, he does look very cute. Is he white and brown? Yeah.
Yeah, white, brown, and black.
Lovely. Oh, hi, Digby.
Sorry, I actually got off track there. I don't know what I was answering.
I think you'd finished saying about how long it takes you to do these things, and you're not going to do a blooper reel, just because of time. Yeah.
No, this is the first year in over a decade that I've actually had free time outside of film. Up until last year, we're doing 140 minutes of content a year in total. Each year when you accumulate that, and that's full. Like there's not a lot of gaps there for anything else.
Yeah.
So we'll see. It seems like I've got a bit more time on my side now. Well, I thought I did, but with a little baby, it's not too much free time.
Yeah, congratulations on your 8-month-old. I know that COVID's probably put an end to your traveling at the moment anyway, but has it been, how different has it been for you to do your work whilst having a little one around?
Yeah, I plan to take a break. When my wife was due, I wanted to have the time here with him. I didn't want to be on the road, so I only had set up a couple projects, all of which have been postponed and delayed. So I've actually had, barring a few little projects here and there, I've had the whole year at home, and I feel very blessed that I've been given that opportunity in such a crazy time. I feel very lucky, and if I could go back, I would clear my schedule, and I would take the hit on a year's income to have this time that I've had with him. There's no go backs on this kind of stuff. To be there to see him growing is quite amazing. So I'd be, I'm happy to take another year off if I
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be amazing. And then maybe he'll grow up and come with you on some of this kind of thing, and you can kind
Yeah.
of hand over the skills to him. It'd be amazing. um, we've got a couple of questions on the live chat just coming in. We've got Rich Simpson says he's wondering if you have to train to be, like when you were traveling, he was wondering if you had to train to be in environments like the mountains or remote places. Do you have to, because you're with athletes who are presumably running quite quickly, and you've got this big bag on your back full of camera gear, you must be pretty fit. What kind of training do you do?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say I'm fit, especially at the moment. But yeah, I think there's sometimes a misconception about how it works. You're not running with him all the time. Like maybe you'll do little stretches, and then you're definitely not carrying a heavy pack, because it's tough to keep up with those guys carrying nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, the biggest challenge is actually just getting the gear out to location. So carrying heavy packs, that's actually the best training you can do for camera work, is to load it. But that's really difficult to do at home, because when I come home, I want to be in the mountains without any pack on, because all my work is spent in the mountains with packs on. So then I come home and I'll run and be light and really enjoy that, and then you get to the next job, and then the first 5 days just a sufferfest again, because you got to get used to carrying the pack.
Yeah. So no training, you just suffer.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, Rich says he's preparing for an expedition to the Antarctic.
Amazing.
So, yeah, he says if you fancy doing some filming for that, it will have to be mates rates, though.
Just you pay my way to the Antarctic, I'm there.
Yeah, yeah, amazing place. That would be amazing. And Adrian Orange says that's pretty extreme filmmaking that Dean's talking about here. Can he choose what the project is, or are you contracted to make to film specific subjects? Like how, now that you're quite well established, that how much control do you get over these projects? You did talk earlier about making 30-minute films rather than what they've requested, but yeah, how much of a hand do you get in just exactly what that film is?
Yeah, so in my time with Salomon TV, when I first started, it's a new client, no one knows each other, so I was very much, I was given a very wide scope of what I needed to, what they wanted in terms of film, but I was told I needed to be here for this race with these athletes. So there's no real massive brief. It's just make something, but that you've got to be there. So it's very specific. I did that for 2 years, and I kind of just learned about trail running, and I saw what was happening. And then I went into Salomon, and I pitched what ultimately became Salomon Running TV. And I had almost complete autonomy for those first few years with what I wanted to make. They would have requests. Maybe one of the films a year would be listen, we need this. Can you do this? And okay, cool, I'll do that, because I was given free rein. But yeah, as your career progresses, you do have the ability to choose. It's scary. It never stops being scary, saying no to work. But if you can, the more you say no, and the more the right projects come along, it's easier to make decisions based on faith rather than fear. And when you do that, only good things happen. So you just got to make sure you're making the decisions for the right reason. And then you obviously find your voice as well. So you build confidence in yourself, and you're now confident to go say to someone, if someone gives you a note and it's going to change the integrity of the film, you say, okay, listen, I understand why you're saying that, but I really feel strongly about this, that we are going to lose some authenticity in this, and we should think about this if we're going to change that. So you just learn a negotiating skill set, because you're fighting for the film and other people are fighting for different things. And I think that's important.
And is there a film that you haven't made yet? Something that you have a burning desire to do that you haven't done yet?
I grew up surfing. It was my introduction to wilderness. I used a lot of my influence from growing up watching surf films into the films I made with Chamonix. So I would love to one day maybe make a surf film. That would be on my list.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I can definitely see that within your films. Sometimes they have a dreamlike quality, like the flow of a surf film is definitely there in the running films. You make everything look so beautiful.
Thank you. It's good to hear.
And we've got some people want some tips from you. So we've got John Airy says, can I be cheeky and ask 2 questions about the filming? How does Dean manage to film in low light? First of all, that's his first question to you.
Yeah, so low lights become a lot easier with the mirrorless cameras. So I use the Sony A7S II. There's a new model of that out now, and that, if you get your settings right in low light, you can see more than your eye can see. So it's quite an amazing camera.
Wow.
So we utilize that a lot, but you have to practice to get those settings just right, because if it's off, you're just going to have grain. So yeah, I don't like artificial lights. I don't often use them. We will use headlamps a lot. Sometimes we'll clip a headlamp onto the front of the camera if we need to. We'll just put Velcro on and just jam it onto the front. So we try to keep everything as simple and light as we can, and everything should have multiple uses. You don't want to be carrying stuff for single use. But yeah, you just work with it. But I think each brand has a low light camera now, and it's quite incredible what they capture.
Okay, that's cool. Thank you for that. And his second question is about using a Steadicam. He says, has Dean used a Steadicam, and if so, how tiring is it to wear? And then he says that the first movie that used one was about a runner. I think Marathon Man used a Steadicam for the first time. He just thought that would be interesting to ask.
Yeah, so when I first started, I did the first big budget running piece we did was actually a music video. I used to direct music videos, and I was shooting with Ryan. I pulled him in we needed a runner, and we had a massive, I didn't use the rig because it was like a 50 kg Steadicam rig, and we put the guy on what are those things where you have the wheels and you lean forward and they go Segway.
Segway, yeah.
So we had an off-road Segway on the beach.
Cool.
And the guy carrying the rig actually came off, so he had like a 50 kg rig fall on top of him with the cameras.
Oh no, I hope the cameras were all right.
Yeah,
they sound expensive.
And then we used a Steadicam Merlin for years before the new brushless gimbals, and that's a very small handheld kind of weighted thing, and it's actually great I still have one, because the brushless motorized gimbals that you have now, if it's raining, they dead weight. Those little Steadicam Merlins, there's no electronics in it, so you can go in torrential downpours and wrap your camera in Glad wrap and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I think I've seen a film of someone making one of those, even, because they're quite simple things to do, aren't they? Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, and what do you think of the GoPros now? The Hero 7 and 8, they just have such amazing stabilization. You can even run with them. They're my saving grace. I love them.
Yeah, no, it's incredible what's coming out. That stabilization in the GoPros is amazing. What it's doing. Go back 10 years, you couldn't. It wouldn't have seemed possible.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I don't think I could have done this job 10 years ago. Well, YouTube was hardly around even, was it?
Yeah.
All the technology. And so Bram Van Diemen, he's one of my patrons, and he quite regularly makes films of his runs, which he shares with us, which look really beautiful. He's based in the Netherlands. He would like to know what your advice would be for aspiring filmmakers. So I suppose that's quite a general question. So he says, what are the traps to look out for? And he's also he's asking about good resource sites for the music, which is interesting. We haven't talked about the music side of things yet.
Cool. Yeah, I suppose the biggest and hardest thing to do in film is to simplify, and that's ultimately what you're doing when you're sitting in the edit suite. You are taking a story and you're stripping it back to its simplest form when it's only got what it needs. And so learning how to do that and losing the emotional attachment you have to the footage, especially if you're shooting it yourself, you know, you will know this when you go out and film something. There's an experience attached to that, and you feel a certain way. And when you come back in the edit suite and you watch that footage, it evokes those feelings that you felt. But only you have those feelings, and no one watching that footage has those feelings attached to it. So to be able to step away and you know, just look at it through a different lens, with someone that, you know, someone's eyes that are going to see that. So dropping the emotional attachments and simplifying, and it's such simple things, but it took me, you know, going on a decade. I'm still learning how to do it, and it's never ending. But if you can get those things, that's what makes a great film ultimately.
Yeah, so step back, maybe get somebody else to watch it even, do you think?
Yeah, and you know, I suppose the other rule would be story trumps footage. So if you've got like the most beautiful shot you've ever shot in your life from a mountaintop, and it just does not work in your story, and there's no reason for it to be there, it gets binned. And it's like there's no and I've had so many discussions with all the guys that have worked with me and different people, and it gets binned every time because it has to have a reason for being there, and being pretty or beautiful isn't enough. It needs to have reason. Same with writing, I suppose. You're not going to just go off on a tangent on a paragraph.
Yeah, definitely. That's wise words there. So I hope that helps Bram. And he says, what sites do you use for music? Do you use local musicians and like local artists and stuff?
Yeah, I wish I was. I wish I had a more romantic answer for this. So when I started, I worked with some really talented musicians here in Cape Town, and we wrote music for every single piece we did.
Wow.
Working very closely together, like picking, you know, drum snares and just making it for each film. So when those films I mentioned earlier, The Beauty of the Rational and On the Road, that's original music in those, written for those films.
Wow.
But there was a kind of a change in the industry where music became much more affordable, and there's so many talented musicians around the world. So we went through a transition where we went from recording original music to just putting it out there to local musicians, saying, listen, we'll give you budget, but nothing to what we can afford to established musicians. But what we can give you in return is exposure, and we can trade. And if you're happy, then we're happy. And then it ended up, now I use a library, and I use Artlist. I have used Artlist for the last couple of years, which is an incredible library. But there's so many of them. There's half a dozen or a dozen music libraries that are very affordable with amazing music from up and coming musicians. So the whole, I think 80% of Transamericana is actually library music.
Yeah, and it is good library music, isn't it? Like, I just use the YouTube free audio stuff, and you know, if you trawl through that for long enough, you find something that's, you know, quite good.
You put in the hours on anything, you can be good.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So Artlist is a good music library. Okay, well, I hope that helps you, Bram. And we've got a couple more questions before we leave Dean tonight. So this one's kind of similar. So Guy wants to know like what the future of adventure filmmaking is in the near future. Yeah, so yeah, let's go for that one now. I suppose he means kind of COVID related. Yeah, how's it going to pan out, do you think, in 2021?
I think there'll be a hunger for film. It's the main storytelling medium we have, so I don't think a lot will change in terms of the content you see. You might see filmmakers being selected more locally, that you won't be traveling such big distances. Um, But yeah, I've believed for a while now that long form will make a massive comeback, and you're already seeing that. I couldn't believe so many people would sit and watch a feature on YouTube. It was quite like when we released Transamericana, I wasn't sure how that would be received. Um, because so much stuff is short, snappy, quick, like it's easy to forget. So when someone makes something that's in excess of an hour, there's a lot of intent there, and someone wants to say something, and there's a lot of effort involved, so it makes people concentrate a little bit and actually maybe watch something with substance. So I imagine more long form stuff will start happening with brands. Well, that's what I hope happens.
Yeah, awesome. There'll be like less to leave out then, won't there? And Mick, in a similar way, he says, does Dean feel that elite trail and ultra races will be able to break into mainstream TV channels, just given that it's so beautiful there and the landscapes that are so spectacular and it's so exciting? He thinks it deserves to be seen by a wider audience. So yeah, just like, do you feel like trail and ultra is sort of breaking into mainstream TV nowadays, or will it?
Yeah, this is the question. There's so many different parties trying at the moment. I haven't seen a formula that works, to be honest. Um, just because even if it's a 100-mile race, which is effectively what, let's just say 24 hours for argument's sake, it's still quite a small window to accumulate enough viewers live over that period. In terms of live sport, it takes a long time to watch. Whereas if you look at the WSL, the World Surf League, they have like 5 days to accumulate their views. So there's a lot more value add the whole day, every day for 5 days. So you can really build up a lot of eyeballs on there, which is obviously attractive for companies. So yeah, the only race that I've ever seen that has live TV and it's mainstream and it is super exciting is Mount Marathon in Alaska. And that's a 5K up and down race in the mountains. They have helicopters. It's like there's camera crew. It feeds live. Guys at the start line, they leave. People are in the pub that you can watch the top of the mountain from the pub. It takes 2 hours to finish, so it's nice bite size. So that's the only formula I've seen work. But I don't think you're going to be watching UTMB on BBC anytime soon.
It's such a shame because it's so much more interesting than cricket. Don't you think?
Yeah, but I think TV's dying anyway. So you got the internet. You don't even need TV anymore, and it's on the internet and it's live and it's feeding. So
yeah,
just connect an HDMI cable to the laptop and it's on your TV. You sorted.
That's true. Yeah, and I think there's a place for. Like, I'm really pleased to see a lot of this type of film and your films like on things like Netflix as well, just free to view for anyone who's got a Netflix subscription, because I just think that brings things into more of a mainstream arena as well. So I'm pretty psyched for the way things are going. So this brings us to start rounding up the chat now. So I was just wondering if you can tell us anything about what's next for you, Dean, and also have you ever been to the UK? Are you ever thinking of coming to the UK?
Yeah, I have. My wife's actually British.
Oh, cool.
So I've been and I spent some time there when I was younger. We obviously don't have a trip planned for the next while with the situations. but yeah, I did a film out there with Ricky again. We shot in Glencoe and in the Lake District.
Ah, you shot, was that
Um,
the really rainy one where he's in a
yeah,
camper van and it's really rainy? You shot that? Oh,
exactly.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you saw Britain at his best.
yeah. But yeah, I loved, and I've been down to Kendal before at the festival. I've spoken at that festival, and
Ah, brilliant.
I love it. The Lake District's incredible. It really surprised me. It was one of those places. And we had magic weather in Glencoe, which was also just phenomenal. An
Yeah,
incredible place.
yeah. That's awesome. So yeah, is there anything coming next for you, or is it just all up in the air at the moment?
Yeah, so I've got a project pending for 2 weeks' time, which would be up in Namibia. It's fairly close. I'm not sure if that's going to happen. We're waiting to get the final go ahead or not. And if that doesn't happen, I cleared my schedule for the late end of the year. So I'll be stoked to hang with my son and my wife and enjoy summer. We're hitting full blown summer here, so we're
Oh yeah.
50 meters from the beach, and uh,
Oh, I completely forgot. Like, we're just heading into winter, so yeah, I completely
yeah,
forgot you guys would be heading into the warmth.
yes, long days on the beach.
Oh, what a lovely time to have an 8-month-old. He'll absolutely love that. And so, how can we follow you in everything that we do? Like, tell us your website and Instagram details, and we'll get everybody following you.
Sure. Our website is wanderingfever.com with an A and fever as in a sickness. Um, and Instagram, I need to get this right. I'm terrible with social media. Instagram is The Wandering Fever, and then Twitter and Facebook is Wandering Fever.
Uh-huh. Awesome. I'm sure if they Google it and find the website, then the links will be on there as well.
You can link off everything on the website, and there's a lot of my work is up on that website as well.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Dean's films yet, then a lot of your Salomon films especially are on there, and they just make such a beautiful watch, really inspiring. Like, if you need some motivation, if you haven't got a race during lockdown, then definitely watch one of those films and you'll just be reaching for your trail running shoes immediately after finishing that film. That's how I always feel when I've watched your films. I'm just like, oh my goodness, I need to get out now. That's what happens.
I'm glad. That's what they're meant for. Eh?
Yeah, they really, really do that. They're really beautiful. Well, I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Dean for spending this time with us this evening. It's been really, really intriguing, because usually we have a coach or an athlete on, and so it's really nice to get like the other side of the story. So I just want to say thank you for such a lovely chat tonight.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, I'll let you go for your evening now. Everybody has had a really awesome time. Loads of thumbs ups on the live chat. So thanks, guys, for watching. And yeah, I hope to see you soon at an event, maybe next year or back in the UK as well.
Yeah, hopefully. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dean. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.